this idea, this notion of the smartest person in the room is huge, and especially with things like the Ontario Leadership Framework, being really pushed in the last few years. And I've been really looking at that, and it's a great document if you are a forward-thinking person, but it's also a great document if you're good to teach, or to lead a school 30 years ago. And we need to really break that down and say, what does this framework actually mean today? What does this look like? How are you successful? Because, for example, one of the ideas is data, collecting data and what you do with it and how you share it. But when a lot of leaders think of data, they think of test scores. They think of numbers. They're not necessarily thinking of stories. They're not thinking of videos that they're creating, because that tells a huge story about your board as well, too. And the absence of it also tells a huge story about your board, too. And if I Google your board and all I find is your website that you might have got someone else to create for you, why are we not a part of that conversation? And why are we not taking that data and resharing it and curating it, finding what our teachers are doing in their classrooms and taking that and telling those compelling stories that the public, our communities need to hear, but the public overall? Because I actually was just speaking in Cornwall just the last week, and if you ever read an article on education in the newspaper and then you read the comments, it's like we are so far away from one another. We are so distant from one another, what we believe to happen in education, what our community believes. And we need to really start sharing these compelling stories where people see the need for schools to look different, that it actually needs to really serve what our world looks like today. And that's only going to happen if we start tapping into one another. It's not something we can do in isolation anymore. We need to connect and learn with one another. And so this is a quote that I share in all my presentations, the notion that transformational leaders don't start by denying the world around them. Instead, they describe a future they'd like to create instead. And with many of our schools, what they do is they block social media, not only for kids, but for their teachers, and it's like, you can't use Facebook during the workday, you can't use Twitter, you're expected to do this outside. Yeah, well, we say to our teachers on our board is saying, anything you can do. If you need Instagram, we need Facebook, whatever you need to create better learning opportunities for your students, you need to create that. And if we trust you in front of kids, we trust you with the computer. We're not really worried about you doing that stuff. And in every school board, you're going to have someone that abuses that, like even including our own here in Alberta. But the reality of it is we're not going to shut everything down because one person did a boneheaded thing, or else we wouldn't do anything ever. And what we talk about with our kids and our teachers all the time, and one thing that I really believe is that if you we now have the world at our fingertips. What are we doing with it? What are the conversations that we're actually trying to actually facilitate with our students? And what we talk to them about quite often is this notion of basically, here's, talk about cyberbullying and, digital safety and all these aspects. And what we're telling them over and over again is, here are all the things you can do. We don't talk about the idea of, here are the things you should do. Here are the things that you can actually do to make a difference in the lives of others. And then we wonder why, they're doing things that, are repulsive to employers online. We wonder why they're cyberbullying, because we're not actually trying to inspire them to do something different. We're just, again, telling them what not to do. And the only way that we'll be able to lead them in this world with all these tools is to immerse ourselves in this ourselves and actually think of ways that we can actually do this. And that's kind of where my journey began in the work that I was doing.